Ever get that feeling, like there's a bigger intelligence kind of at play here. Like we're all plugged into something vast and mysterious.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Well, that's what we're diving into today, the whole world of transpersonal intelligence. And you guys, you listeners, you've sent over some seriously fascinating stuff about synchronicity, randomness, and how these totally chance events maybe might actually like have a deeper meaning.
It really makes you question, right? Like, what if our definition of intelligence needs a serious upgrade?
Right.
It's like we're moving beyond what we can measure on those IQ tests into something much more, well, mysterious. Intuition, interconnectedness, even like tapping into a wisdom that's way beyond just our individual minds.
Okay, so let's break this down a bit. We're talking transpersonal experiences, those moments where you feel this connection to something much, much bigger than yourself.
Right.
And this article, Transpersonal Wisdom Through Randomness and Synchronicity, which, by the way, thank you to whoever sent that in.
Fascinating read.
It really is. And it argues that these experiences, these transpersonal experiences, they aren't just, interesting anomalies or whatever. They're like a doorway to a different way of knowing things.
It really challenges you to reconsider where intelligence resides, doesn't it? Like, what if it's not all just contained within us? What if it's something bigger, something we tap into?
Okay, so like a universal library of wisdom.
Exactly. And we each have these moments, these glimpses, where we access it.
Whoa. Okay, so less about what we individually know and more about our ability to connect to this larger source of information.
Think of it like,
Yeah.
like a universal Wi-Fi network or something.
Yeah.
We all have the capacity to connect, but it's about finding the signal, tuning in.
Okay, I like that. And what I find really interesting is how the article brings in like randomness as a key to unlocking this connection.
Yeah, randomness. It's a fascinating concept, right? Because it takes our conscious control out of the equation. It's like,
Go on.
It's like, well, imagine you're trying to solve a really complex puzzle. And you keep approaching it the same way, but you're not getting anywhere. Randomness is like shaking up all those puzzle pieces, disrupting those old patterns, and creating space for something new to click into place.
So are we talking about those moments where you just know something, even if you can't really explain it logically? Those gut feelings or like flashes of insight?
Exactly. And those could be, little hints, glimpses of this transpersonal intelligence at play.
Okay, I'm with you.
The article even mentions things like bibliomancy. Have you ever heard of that?
Bibliomancy. Not ringing any bells.
So it's where you use a book for guidance, but you're not reading it in the traditional sense. You randomly select a passage.
Oh, okay. Like almost like a fortune cookie in a way.
In a way, yeah. And it's not about, telling the future literally. It's more about breaking free from how we normally think.
Yeah.
The linear way, and accessing a different kind of knowing.
Huh. Bibliomancy. You know what? It reminds me of being a kid. I used to flip open the dictionary to a random page and learn a new word. Every day. It wasn't exactly profound wisdom or anything. But there's something to be said about that element of surprise. Like, trusting where it leads you.
It's about letting go a little, right?
Right.
It makes me think of how in ancient Greece, people would consult oracles. These oracles would interpret like seemingly random events, the flight of birds or casting bones, to give guidance, predict the future. And regardless of whether you believe in fortune telling or not, it's still super intriguing. The whole idea that these random events hold a deeper significance, that they're connected to something beyond just what we see on the surface.
It's like those moments, and I'm sure everyone listening has experienced this, where you think of someone and then, bam, they call.
Or you stumble on the perfect piece of advice in a book right when you need it most.
Exactly. Which, of course, brings us to synchronicity.
Right.
So is it just coincidence? Or is there something, more at play here? Because this article definitely seems to think it's the latter.
It's like the universe is messing with you, but in a good way.
Right.
It's those meaningful coincidences that suggest, like maybe there's a plan. A deeper order to things.
A design.
Maybe. And the thing about synchronicities is, when you start paying attention to them, well, they seem to happen more often. It's like the universe is saying, hey, I'm here. Are you paying attention?
Okay, so we've got this idea of transpersonal intelligence. We've got randomness. We've got synchronicity. It's like all these concepts are, I don't know.
Threads in a much larger tapestry.
Yeah, threads. And as we keep exploring them, maybe a clearer picture will emerge.
And what's really interesting is that, this isn't just some theoretical stuff.
Right.
The article really emphasizes that we can use these concepts to actually live more fulfilling and meaningful lives.
Yeah.
Like by understanding this transpersonal intelligence, by working with it even,
Yeah, yeah.
we can tap into a much deeper wellspring of wisdom and guidance.
See, that's what I'm really curious about, the practical applications of all of this. Because it's one thing to talk about these concepts, right? But how do we actually use them in our daily lives?
Well, to understand that, it might be helpful to look at some of the different ways this transpersonal intelligence shows up. Have you ever had a dream, for instance, that felt incredibly vivid, meaningful even, almost like it was trying to tell you something?
Dreams, oh yeah. I've totally had those where I wake up and I'm like, what was that all about?
Yeah.
It's like they're tapping into something totally different, something beyond my everyday thoughts, you know?
There's something about them, isn't there?
Sure.
And that right there could be this transpersonal intelligence showing up.
Really?
The article even talks about Carl Jung. I'm sure you've heard of him.
Yeah, yeah.
He believed that dreams were like this bridge to the unconscious mind, a place where, we're much more connected to that collective wisdom we're talking about.
So it's like our dreams are speaking a different language. One that's like less about logic and more about
Symbolism, intuition.
right, all those feelings.
And the thing is, even if we don't always understand what our dreams are trying to tell us,
Yeah.
just paying attention to them,
Yeah.
it can make a difference. Like, try journaling them
Oh.
or look for recurring themes, symbols. Those can tell you a lot about what's going on beneath the surface.
It's like, what's a good analogy? It's like our dreams are these little breadcrumbs.
I like that.
And if we follow them, who knows what we might discover? Some deeper understanding of ourselves, maybe.
Absolutely. And sometimes those breadcrumbs, they lead us straight to our own intuition, wouldn't you say?
Intuition.
That inner voice, that gut feeling
Mhm.
that often knows what's best for us, even when our logical mind is, well, trying to convince us otherwise.
Oh, yeah. Countless times. I've learned the hard way, actually, that when I ignore that gut feeling, it usually backfires.
Right.
But how do you know? That's the thing, right? How do you know when it's really your intuition speaking or just like your own fears or something?
It's tricky, right? There's a lot of noise up there.
Oh, yeah.
The key is learning to tell the difference between all those different voices, to figure out which one is actually your intuition.
Which, yeah, easier said than done.
True, but the article mentions a few things that might help.
Yeah.
Creating space for stillness, like actually quieting your mind, meditating maybe, spending time in nature. Because it's often when things are quiet around us, that's when we can finally hear our intuition.
That makes sense. It's like trying to have a conversation in a loud, crowded room. You can barely hear yourself think.
Right.
But if you go outside to a quiet garden or something,
It's completely different.
way easier to hear.
And once you've created that quiet, that inner space, that's when you can start paying attention to your intuition.
Okay, so how do you do that?
It could be a feeling in your body, maybe a sudden knowing, or even like a symbol, something that keeps popping up in your life or in your dreams.
Okay.
The key is just being open to it, trusting those little nudges from your intuition.
So let me get this straight. So if I'm trying to make a decision, for example, or figure out like what path I should take,
Yeah.
I can use these tools we've been talking about, paying attention to my dreams, cultivating my intuition.
Yeah.
To tap into that transpersonal intelligence and hopefully gain some clarity.
It's not about abandoning logic entirely, of course.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that there's another source of wisdom available, one that's a little less straightforward, a little more mysterious, maybe.
Right. You know what this reminds me of? It's like what you were saying earlier about those ancient oracles interpreting those seemingly random events. It makes you wonder, right? Like, what if this larger intelligence, it's always trying to communicate with us somehow?
I like where you're going with this.
It's just that most of the time we're not tuned to the right frequency or whatever to actually get the message.
And the beautiful thing is, we can change that. We're not just passive recipients here.
Yeah.
We can actively engage with this intelligence. We can ask for guidance. We can even create the conditions for synchronicity to happen. We can learn how to interpret all the signs and symbols around us.
Okay, so I'm all for this, but how?
How do we actually do that?
Yeah. What if you feel stuck? Like you don't even know where to begin?
Well, remember how we were talking about randomness before, how it can help break us out of those old thinking patterns?
Yeah.
The article mentions a really interesting exercise that I think might be helpful for those moments. When you're feeling stuck.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me everything. So this exercise, this randomness exercise, lay it on me.
Okay, so picture this.
Yeah.
You're facing some tough decision. Or you're dealing with a challenge, right?
Getting there.
And you're just like stuck.
Oh, yeah. Stuck in my own head, going in circles. It's the worst.
Exactly. So the article, it suggests going for a walk. In nature, specifically.
Okay, I can get behind that.
It could be your backyard, a park, whatever. Somewhere you can just connect with nature.
Right.
And as you're walking, focus on the thing that's been bugging you. The question, the problem, whatever it is.
Got it. Focus on the problem. Then what?
Then, pay attention to what catches your eye.
What, like randomly?
Yeah. Don't overthink it. It could be anything, really. A flower, a bird, an interesting cloud.
Okay.
Anything that feels significant in that moment. And here's the thing. See, that random thing you noticed? That's your cue.
My cue for?
To shift your perspective. Use it as a starting point to think about your problem in a new way. Like, let's say you keep getting passed over for a promotion at work.
The worst.
You're feeling stuck, right? So you go for this walk and you see, I don't know.
A bird.
Yeah, a bird building a nest.
Yeah.
And it hits you. You haven't been putting in the effort to build the skills you need to get to that next level.
Wow, okay. That's kind of profound.
Right. It's like the random encounter of the bird, in this case, it unlocks something.
It's like we're handing the problem over to our subconscious or something, like to that part of us that's more plugged into all of this, this transpersonal intelligence.
Exactly. We're letting go of trying to control everything with our logical minds. We're opening ourselves up to different possibilities, different ways of seeing things.
That does take a certain amount of, trust, doesn't it?
It does. Trusting that there's something bigger at play here. Trusting that even if we don't have all the answers, we're being guided somehow.
It's easy to get caught up in needing proof for everything, especially in today's world, show me the data, show me the logic.
It's a different way of thinking for sure. But it can be so rewarding, don't you think?
Absolutely. It reminds me of that Einstein quote. There are only two ways to live your life. One is as though nothing is a miracle. The other is as though everything is a miracle.
I love that because really it's all about how we choose to see things, isn't it? When we approach life with a sense of curiosity, openness, that's when the magic happens.
So as we wrap up here, this deep dive into transpersonal intelligence, what's your big takeaway? What do you hope people walk away with?
For me, it's hope. This whole idea, it's incredibly hopeful, don't you think? That we're all connected to something bigger than ourselves. That we have this wellspring of wisdom to draw on if we just know how to tap into it.
And that even though life can feel random and chaotic sometimes, there might just be a bigger plan unfolding after all.
Maybe those synchronicities, those coincidences, are really just the universe's way of nudging us in the right direction.
Love it. All right, everyone listening, thanks for coming along on this deep dive. And remember, keep exploring, keep paying attention to those little synchronicities, and most importantly, trust your gut. We'll see you next time.